Hey everybody, we started without you. This is Hot Topics, and we as myself, Janelle, and Rebecca could not be more stoked to have this person on.
Yeah.
I can't even, I mean, I know you're a nice person, so you would obviously say yes, but like, you probably have a lot of shit going on.
You don't know I'm a nice person, do you?
I mean, you come off as a nice person, but you also come off as I don't really care if you like what I have to say or not person.
Yes.
So I like that. He's a 1-3 Splenic Projector. This is Travis Day, everybody.
Travis Day.
Thank you so much. I'm stoked to be here as well. You're speaking my language already. So
we're both from California, so.
Yes. And we've all three already cried, so this is going to be a good one.
Yes. We just dove right in, and yeah, it's been great. So I finally was like, y'all, we need to record so we can share this with the people.
You're like, shut up, Janelle, we have to start. And I was like, all right. And the reason we're so excited to have Travis on is because I personally think, and I feel like Rebecca probably agrees with me for the most part, that the way that you share, the style that you share in, the words that you choose, the things that you choose to share about, it's just very interesting, because sometimes it hits me and I'm like, hey, well, that's not cool. Don't say that about my human design. Like, this is not nice. And then it like gets in my brain. I'm like, well, actually, that totally makes sense. And let me look at this thing. And I've even messaged you. I was like, I can't quit my job as a server, you jerk. Quit telling me to stop doing that. Even though you're obviously not telling me. But I felt very personally victimized by what you have to say, but like in the best way possible. And so I knew that Hot Topics would be a good place, because this is where we want to talk about human design in a way that is however we want. However.
Well, I'm so flattered that you feel personally provoked, because I feel like a lot of my energy is really meant to do that, you know, the 2551, to get people to do things that they normally wouldn't do. I'm very good at that. And I fucking love human design so much. Like like it's changed my life in so many ways. I'm deep into the source material. Like I'm not a believer by any means, but I keep testing it out and it keeps working, and it's dramatically changed my life. And so it just comes from a place of love, you know, when I'm not necessarily critiquing the system, but a lot of the stuff I see in the community and that's out there right now doesn't fucking work, you know, and it's disempowering. So that's the only reason it comes out of my love. So.
Well, it totally makes sense, because with your incarnation cross, you're kind of here to show people what doesn't work and use logic in a way that it makes people go, but hey, this sounds so smart, but I don't like this. So, and when I read about your cross out, I love the sentence. It says, what parts of life do others overlook? And I feel like you really jump into those parts of life. And when I say that is when I watch your stories, you are everywhere. You're over in this country and doing this, and you're on a bike and you're surfing and it just looks so fun and amazing. And I feel like a lot of times people overlook the fun part of life. And I don't think that you have overlooked that.
Preach. I'm not always having fun, but that is I love that, because I think that's really what I've been seeing so much in human design lately is like, is anyone having fun anymore? Or is everyone just like worried about being right and like arguing about what it means? I'm like, you guys are missing the point, because if you're not having
correct? I'm the most correct.
Oh, you're not self. You're not self.
No
I'm not
shit.
talking to you.
I'm not self half the time, so just leave it alone.
I'm only self at all times. I'm just living my design.
I like that. I love that. I'm writing that down.
Yes. Or I love when people get in arguments about what Raw actually said. Like, okay, y'all, calm down.
He didn't know what he was saying half the time. He was, you know, he wasn't. Well, he was Ruhu. He wasn't Robert anymore. But I really believe like the things that were coming out of him were so like divinely orchestrated, you know. And it's just like, wow, how can we even grasp a lot of this stuff?
And her and I have talked about this, just like you said about yourself. His design was built to provoke people and to say things that would make them angry or make them think or stir some shit up.
Yeah.
And so that's why sometimes when you like read the material that it does that to you, because that's his voice, is to do that. I mean, he's shock, man. So when you first said that to me, Rebecca, I was like, oh my God, that is why sometimes I'm like, it hits me weird. And I know he has like I don't know, I feel like he likes projectors, but he doesn't, like, at the same time. So
yeah, that's an interesting thing, because from what I could tell, especially with the mental projector, he's basically like, look, here's a bit of information that I have, but y'all are going to have to figure it out and teach yourselves. Is that the vibe you've gotten?
It's so, I think you could really see his moods change, because sometimes you listen and there's so much love and fun and sarcasm and it's amazing, and then other ones you're like, oh, he was in a bad mood today, because it's just like he's like spewing like it's truth still, but it's truth in a way that's like, I don't want to listen to this anymore. Like, fuck, I just wasted $20 at Jovian Archive to hear it raw, like in a bad mood, like this about love and relationships. Like, I feel so just like I'm just going to be single forever.
So oh my gosh, I've had those moments too. And that was one thing I was going to bring up, because I listened to you on the coffee talk and you talked a little bit about relationships, and being a 1-3, you said some things that really hit me. I was like, okay, so I'm not alone in some of these things. But yeah, has human design helped you in the relationship aspect as well?
Yes and no. First of all, that's a true story. I emailed Jovian Archive to ask him for a refund, because I was like, you said in the description this is what it was going to be, and it was pretty much raw, just like going off on a like a bad mood.
Did they give you a refund?
Yeah, they were super cool.
Of course they did.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, they were really, really cool about it.
My undefined heart would never.
I was like, I don't know how you ask for refunds, because I can't do that shit.
Oh, if it's not up to my standards, I'm like, oh, I want my money back. You know,
this is why
you promised something. But yeah, so relationships. What do you want to talk about? Relationships? I can go off on any tangent now. To me, the most beautiful thing human design offers you about relationships is just like that. There's areas where you speak the same language, and there's areas where you don't speak the same language in everybody. And where you don't speak the same language, all you need is awareness. And with awareness comes acceptance. And with acceptance comes like, hey, you could be in a relationship with anybody. You may not want to, it may not be a good one for you, but you're aware like, hey, we're not doing anything to each other. This is just the way it is.
I totally agree. Awareness has been a huge word for me when it comes to human design, because at first I was trying to fix things and change things. And I've had people ask me, can you change your design? And I'm like, no, this is what it is. But I wasn't listening to that. I was like, except for me, I'm going to change this part of it. And then I realized, crap, I have to accept this, which helped me to accept like my husband's design. I've been married for almost 7 years. This one's single, but she's got kids.
Very, very single. But I feel like the more I get in human design, the more I'm like, I don't know if I want to deal with y'all. Like, I'm a 1-3 mental projector. You've got to like, you got to bring something. Come on.
You've got to bring something.
But sorry, go ahead, Travis.
I was gonna say, how many kids do you have?
2.
Two. Okay.
They're 16 and 18. Manifestor and projector, so we're all non-sacral in the house, which is great. But their dad was a 2-4 generator, sacral generator, with like the most defined spleen ever. And so that's been interesting to unpack that as well, where I realized like my 3 line kept wanting to mutate things and grow things, right? And like my 1 line was like reading all the marriage books. I got married at 20 also. So I was like trying to figure out how to be the perfect wife. And he's like, why don't we just chill and like have some fun?
Of course you would say that 2-4 generator. My husband is also a 2-4 generator.
Oh, no way.
I call him a caveman because he's defined spleen, sacral, heart. That's it, which is interesting for a generator to be so open. But he's very like, everything's very simple, and I complicate things a lot, which is true. It's my design. I'm a mental projector. I'm complicated because I don't know where to ground, like where to put myself half the time. And yeah, I think that the relationship aspect is really cool because it's not just romantic relationships, but it's the people that you are around a lot of the times. Maybe you meet a new person. I work at a restaurant, so I'm always around people. And it's interesting to know what they are, even if they don't give a shit about what you know. And I'm like, well, this is why you act crazy at work. And I know, and you just have to live with it.
I mean, and that's the thing, like it does it for you, you know, no one else needs to know human design. If you know, then you could accept other people, right? Yes. And they can still be themselves and do whatever they're going to do. But you're just like, yeah, I know. It's okay. It's not your fault. I know why I hate you.
I know why we just don't get along at all. Yeah. I feel that about a certain mental manifesting generator in my life. I won't say who it is. I don't think she'd ever listen to this, but she's got a defined heart too. So it must be something else in her that, like, anytime I'm around her, I'm just like, I don't like you. And, you know, manifesting generator sometimes. Yeah.
Can't live with them, can't live without them.
There's some that I really love, and I'm like, your energy is amazing. And then sometimes I'm like, get out of here. There's been something in human design that has really been bugging me for a long time. Yes, and I know a lot of it has to do with my conditioning personally in life. How the fuck do you trust the universe, other people, that things are going to happen if you do this? If you do your best to live your design or whatever hell we're supposed to be doing, how do you know? Because I think I trust all the time. I feel like I'm very trusting, but I ask her all the time, I go, I don't think I'm trusting enough. Am I not trusting enough? What am I supposed to do? How do you know when the universe is like, okay, you trust in us enough? No, so now we're going to give you all the stuff, because I feel like I get tricked. I feel like the universe is out to get me. And
she's like always worried
into trusting them. And then wham, they're just going to be like, no, you don't get anything. And you have to figure this out all on your own, because people talk about trust like they just carry it around in their pocket, like it just grows on trees and you just pick it. And so I feel like you have a lot of trust. You see, you have this, you give off this vibe that you, one, could care less, but also just have this innate like trust. You do too, Rebecca. And I don't.
I don't trust shit. I go back and forth all the time. But it's the easiest answer for me. It's so simple for me, because what's your other option?
That's a good point.
You don't have, there is like, oh, what am I going to go back to the life I was living before I found my design? Fuck no. I'll never go back there ever. I know it doesn't work for me. Have I gotten everything my mind wants and more since I started human design? No, I want a shit ton more money. I want a nice place to, I want a lot more. But to me, there's I have no other option now that I've found myself, because I just know how good it feels. But do I trust? No. Do I still have the fears that I'm going to be like broken alone and like whatever? Yeah, of course I do. I think everybody does. But to me, there's no other option anymore. I don't have another choice anymore. I will never go back to the life I was living previously. Yeah. It's not worth it. Even if someone gave me $1 million, I wouldn't go back, like it's not worth it. Once you find your flow and like really start to feel my ego come alive and my spleen, and all those parts of my chart, like feeling them come alive, to me is worth more than like any amount of security or safety or whatever. Yeah.
I guess I don't really think about my life before as being very different. When it like, because I worked at a restaurant then. I just do it less now.
So I worked 10 years in a restaurant. I don't know if you knew that.
Okay, I did read that about you, and I'm like, oh, he knows.
Oh yeah.
He knows how much it sucks.
You gotta get out of there.
And the thing about it is,
that's what I keep telling her.
The more that I'm in the human design stuff, the more I physically cannot do this. Like one shift and I want to lay down for like a day. My whole body feels like cement and like I'm stuck to the ground and I can't do anything. And it pisses me off.
This is the problem. And I'm going to have a girl, we're going to have a conversation. She's putting together, she's a projector as well. And she's in the service industry. We met in the service industry for a long, long time. And she wants to do a program specifically aimed at service industry people. And I have a big hypothesis that the service industry is packed full of projectors because we know we're not built for the 9 to 5. And we're like, okay, well, we're very good with people. We can read people like crazy. We're, very aware and we can be the best people pleasers, really, and therapists and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But when you're stuck in there, we use so much of our energy, the little energy that we don't even have, that by the time you're done working, there's no momentum left for you to start to build something else that you're really going to love, that's going to take you out of the service industry. So I think the service industry for me was just a fucking black hole. It's a treadmill. It's so hard to get out, especially if you're a projector.
We're good at it.
Yeah. And it makes you money.
We run circles around everybody else. I have hanging gate 34, so I know I'm always hooked up to something and I'm always flying around. I'm really good at it. And I think that's part of the reason why it's hard for me is because I don't want to be, I'm like, I don't want to be good at this.
Yeah.
Because then like you said, it's like a black hole. You feel like you're stuck.
Yep.
Well, when I can pay my rent, then I guess I can leave. But I don't know what else to say besides that. That's the big part of the trust that gets me is because, go, Rebecca.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Because I have thoughts about this too, but I just saw Travis's face. What am I I feel like Travis will say it better than I can.
What do you want, people? What do you want?
How long have you been serving or in the restaurant industry?
4 years.
And you can't pay your rent yet?
I mean, I do, but I can't next month if I don't do it.
I'm telling you, it's a vicious, it's like in Austin Powers when he's like, I eat because I'm unhappy and I'm unhappy because I eat. It's a vicious cycle.
I know.
What I see in myself was that I didn't value what I bring to the world, which is my awareness, which is my ability to guide, which is who's going to want guidance from a fucking waiter? This is why I felt like shit my whole life and had zero self-worth. And when I found out, you have a defined ego, you have consistent self-worth, I'm like, okay, well, I must have got the wrong chart because I'm fucking worthless. And this is what we're hustling. You're hustling in that business. And it's like, I got to work harder to make more money. This is why I'm broke, is because I'm not working hard enough. I got to hustle harder. It's the opposite. It is the opposite. It's like, I need to love myself when I'm sleeping at 2 p.m. and not doing shit. It was so hard for me to reconcile that. And so it's just like, you see people in their 50s waiting tables.
I work with
bartending.
People, yeah.
It's like, it's a road to nowhere.
It is.
Until you decide, I hit rock bottom, and this is why it was so easy for me, because I was like, okay, my health is like shit. I'm still broke. I'm not successful. I've been working so hard. If I'm just going to try out my experiment. And if I wind up not being able to pay my rent, that's okay. Something will happen. I'll have a couple months squatting before the police come to kick me out or whatever. But I really got to that point where I was like, me being alone and broke,
it's so hard.
And in my design is a better life than me struggling forever. I honestly believe that. But it took the universe, hitting me over the head to get there.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's where I was going, because I don't know. It's like I said.
But what's the feeling that comes up for you when you can't pay your rent? Then how do you feel about yourself?
I've never not been able to pay my rent.
Yeah, but what if you can't? Then how would you feel?
Then I have 2 dogs and a husband. Where are we going to go? What are we going to do? I would freak the fuck out. I'm survival, okay? Survival view. I'm caves. I don't like shit to not be secure, which is so weird because it feels very first line to want like all this foundation when I have like none.
To me, that's just it's all boring because everybody has the same fear. I don't care what your human design chart says. I really don't.
True.
Everybody has the same three. I'm gonna be broke, I'm gonna be homeless, and I'm gonna be alone. Those are the major three. And to me, it's like, wow, homogenization's real because we're all scared of the same three hypothetical things that don't happen to the majority of people.
I know. I know.
Like, I'll tell you how I felt: worthless and not good enough, and like I can't keep up, and like I have nothing to give to society, and all my dad issues started to come up because he would tell me I'm lazy and I don't have a good work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
I really think not a problem with human design, but a problem with the way we use it is we don't go into our embodiment practices and start to dig deeper into our feelings and why, for me to get over this, I don't need my human design. I need to go dig into my dad issues. I need to uncover why I feel worthless if I can't be consistently productive, because I'm not consistently productive. We're fucking projectors,
Right.
So for me, it's like there's a lot of deeper wounding and trauma that we've all experienced that really get in our way, and human design can be the map to living your life. But until we embody and heal those old traumas and wounds, like it's really hard to move past some of this stuff.
Well, Rebecca, you know how much I enjoy looking into the past and talking about my past, right? We love.
Yes.
You get
so excited every time I bring it up.
It's not relevant. It's not relevant.
It is relevant. It is
so
relevant because it comes into your present.
I know.
We're the same. We're the same person, me and you. I'm just like talking to myself like not that long ago.
I know, but it's crazy because I know what you're saying, and I know if I couldn't pay rent, my husband could help. My husband's like I have like a bunch of people that would do it for me and help me. And I've reconciled a lot of the stuff, like the inconsistent energy. I've gotten, besides the work part, I've gotten pretty good at allowing myself to rest when I need rest, not being productive, and not specifically with this podcast. I asked Rebecca, when do we put these out? Like, are we doing a schedule? And she's like, no. And we're both okay with that. We're like, cool, we'll just do it whenever we want. And a little bit of my heart is like, but hey, people, you gotta be consistent. People won't like you if you're not consistent. But I was like, shut up. So I'm better with certain things. The money and like the security, financial security is like my big, like, I don't know where to go with it. I don't know.
Then I think money is probably the number one for everyone I've ever worked with, and myself too. But there's a really great audio that's like, we're not in the money game anymore. That was old news. Now you're in the success game as a projector, which to me means recognition, really. You're in the satisfaction game if you're a generator. You're in the, fill in the blank. Yeah, it's definitely easier said than done. But for me, like, money started coming easier when I started to be recognized. That's the way I make money, is through first being recognized. So if I'm not being recognized and I'm running around trying to make money, it's not going to really work. And even if it does, it doesn't feel good. Same thing with generators. Like, you could be very wealthy and miserable, but if you're satisfied, it's supposed to come. So I think that's the part where people get hung up, is like, I'm not going to really try this experiment because I'm worried about the money. And so you never find out. You never really know.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that, because I was looking at the parts of my design that annoy me, like my alternating appetite and other things. And I'm like, have I actually tried to do any of this stuff? And I'm like, no, because I think it's stupid. I like the other parts, and I'll talk about gate 5 because I love gate 5. I'll talk about all these parts and the stuff. I love it, but I hate it because it really wants me to be structured and have like routines when I'm not, like, I'm basically not supposed to. I feel like my motivation innocence says you don't have any of that stuff. Like, don't have any of that stuff. And I'm pretty, I don't know. I just kind of do whatever I want to do on the days that I don't have to work. I'm just like, let's just do whatever happens.
Yeah.
So like I said, I feel like you're right. There's a lot of stuff we all bring to the table. It doesn't matter what your design is. There's all these general hangups because we've been conditioned from living not all of us are living in the United States, but I grew up here, you grew up here, you grew up here, but you're not here all the time, which is awesome. I love how I clap for everybody's travel, and I don't like to travel. I don't like airplanes. I don't like new place. I just like to be in my little cave, and I don't want anyone to bother me.
I'll travel for you. It's okay.
Thank you. Well, it looks super fun. I really have like a hang up about planes, like a big one. That's the main.
Like a fear?
Yeah, it's control. I'm in a fucking tube in the sky. I don't have any control of that shit. It smells bad. There's other people in here. I don't like these people. A baby's crying? No, thank you.
But the food's so good though.
I don't think I've ever been on a plane long enough to eat the food. Like,
I'm just fucking around. It's terrible.
It doesn't.
I wasn't gonna say anything. I was like, I guess you like it. But
I flew to Hungary when I was 14, and I remember the apple juice being really good. That was the only thing I remember.
You know what's weird is apple juice. I crave apple juice whenever I'm on a plane. I don't know why. I never drink it except for when I'm on an airplane.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I always crave I think I crave ginger ale.
That too. Yeah.
It's because your stomach's bubbly because it's scary up there.
Well,
I've heard someone say that this is what freaked me out the most. They're like, do you realize that you're breathing in like 150 other people's lungs? Like it's like one lung up there. That's the grossest thing like for me.
Suit, like with my own air. I think that the whole time. I'm like, everybody is just, we're all one person basically right now, people. This is gross.
You should definitely do that. You should definitely do that.
Why? Yeah,
get a hazmat suit and get on the airplane.
That would work totally fine. I'd be allowed for sure. So I don't know. We don't really have a whole lot of other questions. Like I said, there was stuff when I looked, oh my goodness, this is way off of what we just talked about, but I wanted you to tell us what Ra said about tarot.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was just a snippet of a lecture I was listening to. He was told, so what it's actually fascinating. He was told specifically because when he was synthesizing all these ancient wisdoms together, he was told by the voice not to include tarot because it's gotten way too far away from the real meaning of the system and the way that it's meant to be used. But I have friends that do tarot, and I've had like really interesting readings, and it's been like super fun. But it was just fascinating for me to hear, number one, that it came up in his experience, and number two, like he was told, I guess it wouldn't be synthesized for. That was the reason he gave. So
for me, it feels very fun. It almost feels like a woo-woo game. Like it feels real, but also like, well, if this thing that the card says doesn't happen, that's fine too. When people ask like yes or no questions, it really confuses me because I don't know.
I haven't experienced that. To me, when I look at it, it's like, wow, okay, the level of interpretation.
It's all over the
like
place.
It's like astrology. You have to interpret a little bit too, but there's way more science involved. When you look at this card and there's like a picture drawn, and there's like like we were talking about the swords and stuff. Like if you weren't the original, like it's like a massive game of telephone with all these systems, But that to me, it's like I don't know enough about tarot to be commenting on this honestly. So everyone who does tarot out there, I'm sorry. But for me, when I just look at it on the surface, it's like, wow, there's so much left to interpretation of what these symbols mean.
And they allow for, it's very intuitive. So you can interpret one card a million different ways.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me because I watched this documentary and this guy had asked a question, had her pull cards, and then he asked the same question again, like immediately, and had her reshuffle and pull cards again, and she got different cards. But the way she said it was very similar to the way she interpreted the first set of cards. And I think that she was she just was like, oh, well, this could mean this, but it also means this and this and this. And just as we were talking about before, I thought that swords meant penises, but it doesn't. I mean,
maybe that was the original translation. We don't
maybe.
know.
And there's certain cards where they talk about it like as like masculine energy, and I'm like, they mean dick. They're just not saying it. But yeah.
Well, now dick could be a feminine energy now, I guess. I'm not
exactly. Sure. But swords in tarot is like air, and it's like intelligence and the mind and like mental activity. And so I thought that was interesting because I pulled all swords for our little meeting here today. So
well, that would make sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of mental activity happening between the three of us.
I think it really depends. I mean, this is another great point of like even human design and anyone who's doing readings or doing any kind of healing work, like it really, they're the vehicle that the information's moving through, you know? So everyone, if you're intuitive, if you're, you know, we all have different medicine to bring. So it's going to take on your flavor when you deliver it.
And that's, when I first started with human design, I was so like, it needs to sound like this. And I need to make sure I say it like this. And oh gosh, if I give them the wrong information, I suck at this. And then I realized that I couldn't do it. I had to do it with my voice and my way. And as long as I was being authentic and trying to just kind of be there to support the person and guide the person, it didn't matter how I said it or what I said. I wasn't giving wrong information. But that took me a little while because I like the voices of my mentors. And I was like, I have to sound like them. And because they hit me so square in the brain. And I'm like, I have to make sure I do that to somebody else. And I didn't realize that I don't have to sound like them.
Yeah. Well, in order to do that to someone else, you have to sound like you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's something I'm curious about your perspective on, because that's something I see in the community where a lot of people get weird, like, well, this is how Ra said it, so this is how everybody needs to say it. And we've talked about this, Janelle and I, but the same thing that you said, where it's like, we all have our own frequency. We're all kind of, it's not that we're changing the system, we're talking about it through our frequency. But how do you feel about the whole, like, Ra said it this way, so we got to keep it this way?
Yeah, so I'm a bit, you know, I being a 1-3, I'm definitely a purist. And I when I first entered human design, I found Jenna Zoe on Instagram.
Okay.
I found her on a podcast.
Okay, so God bless her. She got me interested into human design. I took one of her reader trainings and was so excited and like, this is amazing. And like, oh my God, I'm going to be this human design reader. And oh my God, like Jenna, she's hot. Like, this is so cool, you know? Pretty. And I was just like really fired up on it. Then I don't know how this happened, but someone sent me a Ra lecture. And I think I cried. I was sitting next to my partner at the time. It felt like it's like he was speaking to my soul, but also like hit me over the head with something like
you were shocked into alignment.
It was like something just happened to me. Whereas Jenna Zoe, I'm like, I got like stars in my eyes, you know, thinking, look, this is going to be fun, love and light way to make money. And Ra changed my life in 1 minute. So for me, if you're in human design and you haven't even heard the man speak, this is a huge disservice to the integrity of the knowledge. And I'm a big believer in that we have to keep the language the same, because words carry a specific frequency with them. So when I see people switch up the wording, I don't feel that frequency anymore. I'm like, oh, wait a second, this is way different. And, you know, a manifester, my partner was a manifester, and we were listening to him speak about the types, and he started talking about manifestors, and we were like crying and laughing, and like, it's hard to hear you have a closed and repelling aura, but there's so much truth in that. Have you met a fucking manifester? They know that their aura feels that way. It doesn't mean you're a repelling person. You're one of the most magnetic people ever when you're doing what it is that you want to do. But to me, it's like, sugarcoating to make sure we're not hurting anyone's feelings. You know, that's not the business I'm in. I have a manifestor brother, a manifestor brother-in-law, a manifestor ex-partner. I know their fucking aura. It's amazing the way it's described, and it's so healing for them to hear that. It's not like he's like, it's not like it's people, I don't know, people take words and then make them mean a certain thing, and then it just gets all like jumbled up, where like if you understand the beauty in that aura, and the power and the impact that it has, then those words aren't negative words anymore. They're actually extremely powerful, special words. But I think there's so many people in this community who are like, we need to protect everyone's feelings because they can't handle the truth. They can't handle the real way. I know better. I'm going to caretake everybody, so I'm going to change up all the words. And to me, it's like, who the fuck do you think you are, taking this amazing information and then robbing someone of a real experience of hearing how impactful that the original terminology and language was?
I feel a lot the same way about our authority, because it's always no authority or like none. That was the first word when
you just have none.
When I saw it was none. And
how was that for you? I'd love to hear that.
It's annoying, but it's not, you're correct that it's not wrong. Like, it's not the wrong terminology. Like, repelling for manifestors can hit your ear and you're like, ugh, but you're right. It's not wrong. None, to me, it felt, at first it felt very disempowering and very much, oh, I have the outer authority. That means I have to trust the universe, and I don't want to do any of that.
We already talked about your trust in the
universe. So I was like, oh, my whole goddamn authority is not, I don't do anything. Thanks a lot. No control ever. Cool, thank you. But I think it describes it so well because it can't be described.
Yeah.
Like, I really, when I talk to other mental projectors about our authority, I'm like, there's really no name. You'll hear soundboarding, environmental, none, all a bunch of different names. But to me, none of them really capture what it is, because it's not any one thing. The mental projector authority is so different for each mental projector. And to me, it's one of the most different, like the most fluid of authorities. When I first learned about human design, I screwed up my birth time in wrong. I was a 3-5 sacral generator for like 4 months. And I remember being so happy that I was like, oh, sacral. So I listened to this and say yes, or no, or maybe, like, that's all I have to do. This is so cool. And it felt right, but not at the same time. Like, it felt off center. I was like, I think this is how this goes. And I know why it felt right, because generators are everywhere and we're all conditioned to be that way. So I was like, I was getting into that conditioning, but something felt off. And then I figured it out, and I got really pissed at human design for a while, and I wouldn't. I burnt that bridge. I was like, I'm burning this shit down. I hate it. Like, I messed this up so bad. And then I had to look at myself, and I had a very similar reaction to when you listen to Ra. When I actually saw my mental projector chart, like the first time I saw it, I cried, but I was very angry. Like, I was like, this is so much work. Like, I don't want this. But then another part of me was like, actually, you're just like staring right at yourself, and this is what that feels like. So get used to it.
It's not work. You know, people, it kind of exposes all the things that you don't like about yourself, but then you realize that it's not you that you're not liking. It's the parts of you that you have been telling yourself are missing, you know, all the not self areas, all the open areas. So that, I think, is hard, because it is, like you just said, it's a mirror of literally who you are. And you feel like, for me, I felt it. Like, I could pretend I wasn't that person, but like, I already knew I was that person. It didn't tell me anything new. It just told me exactly what I felt inside. I was like, fuck, okay, I guess I'm right, you know? Which is hard.
Yeah, it really let me off the hook for a lot of things that I was not comfortable being off the hook with. I wanted to be on the hook. I was like, no, I need, like, this is what we are in this society, is generators. Like, but I don't know. Like you said, it took me a while. I've been into human design for like 5 years now. How do you feel about the 7-year thing? It's
I don't know, man.
didn't Ross say it?
Did he? I'm sure he did. Yeah. I mean, if it scientifically goes back to the 7-year cycle of our cells, and they've done all kinds of studies on these cycles. What's it going to be like? All I could say is I've gone through insane ups and downs and cycles in my own human design experiment where like I'll reach a point where like, fuck human design, I'm bored of this, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yes.
And then a week later I'm like more obsessed and involved than ever in human design again. So I think that's so natural going through these cycles. But as far as like, what is it going to be like after 7 years?
Are you going to change? Do you think you're just going to be different? The day that you hit 7 years, are you just going to be
you wake up that morning
floating on air?
So here's the thing that I think it means is it's when he's talking about the 7 years, he's talking about our body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's not, it's been disproven. Like, yeah, our cells, some of them take 7 years, but some of them don't take that long, and they don't happen all at the same time. So we don't have like a new body.
But I think that's what the whole it takes 7 years for all of them,
for everything. Right? Yeah. That's what they're saying. Like, yes, it all changes at different times, but through the 7 years, then everything has changed.
Yeah.
So but it's not all brand new at that like 7-year mark.
No, but so when you're starting to, so here's what it means for me and what I feel is like my body's physically changing. Mm-hmm. Like I've been under so much stress when I was waiting tables and living my MG life and overexerting myself. And like, I was just this ball of stress. I couldn't even relax ever. Mm-hmm. And once I found my design, there's a relaxation that came in for the first time ever. Mm-hmm. And I started to actually feel what alignment was. And so I've really felt my body's healing. My body's changing. It doesn't really have much to do with my consciousness, although I am aware of how to be in more alignment. But I think over 7 years of going through this kind of like body healing, I think it is gonna feel a lot different. But I don't think at that point something's gonna switch necessarily. For me, it feels more of like a journey getting there.
Yeah. I'm the same.
Okay, so Janelle, think of it this way: like day one, okay, your body is how it is right here, right? And then we go through and things change, things go off, things regrow and all of that, right? So then it's like this flow. And so then by day 7 or by day 1 of year 8, right, you've completed the 7 years, everything is gone. So it's like, sure, something switched here halfway and but none of the cells from here exist on this day.
Okay, so it's like a physical body thing more than it is like a.
Well, I think your awareness continues to grow forever. But when he's talking about cells, to me, that's human design's all about the body. People forget that too, especially you mental projectors, it's like, we should talk about that too, because I'd love to hear it's such a back to the body system. It's the system. It's give your authority back to your body. And everyone just wants to argue and talk about it, hypothetical situations that have nothing to do with anything. And it's like, what is your body saying? What are you feeling? Like, what have you experienced with it? That's all I care about. That's all I want to know, because I could think I'm right about a million different things, but it's like, wait a second, I'm still stressed. My body's still, in fight or flight. So to me, it's like we really need to come back to the body, which is why I'm such a huge advocate now of all these embodiment practices like breath work or yoga or, all these things to, when I tell a generator, listen to their sacral, and they have no idea what that even feels like because they're so detached from their sexuality and their turn on and what lights them up. It's like, wow,
their satisfaction. What makes them satisfied?
I don't even know.
Yeah,
they can't
like, what does that mean?
So what human design can't tell you what it is, then I always recommend people do sacred sexual work or, do some embodiment practice to get you back in your body so then you can feel through the system, because we have to feel our way through human design, not just think it.
Yeah. Breath work was really easy for me to pick up because it's very logical. It's it makes sense because it changes chemicals and hormones in your body. So I was like, oh, this is logical. I love this thing.
Well, and that's why the embodiment work is important. The nervous system work, like you were saying, like calming our nervous system, learning to that. And then if we look at the 7-year thing too, so so this day one person is stressed about certain things, right? So then that stress stays in your body and in your cells for certain times. So Janelle, that's why the past is still in the present.
Thanks, Rebecca.
It kind of stays in there.
I know.
And why the nervous system work is so good. Like Travis was saying, we got to move through it. We got to get in our body. And yeah, that was a hard one for me to figure out, but having my chart as a map helped me to understand why it was difficult for me to get my body and how to get into my body, because I do feel like a floating brain most of the time.
Yeah, we know.
Can you describe that more? I'd love to hear like what it feels like to be a mental projector. And those are probably the most questions I get.
Yeah,
they are.
I get so many I feel so bad because I did a live once and I was like, I have a really great audio for mental projectors of someone like describing their authority, and then I never sent it, and then I promised it again and still never sent it. So I had like a lot of people reaching out.
Just send them to us. Send them to us or to the environment.
Yeah, we have a mental projector Instagram called the Environment HD.
Okay, I'll share all of this after on my Instagram.
Yeah, but that makes us happy that you had like, because I was like, where are they? We need to find all of them. But you talk about how it feels, and then I'll talk about how it feels, because we're different.
Well, I know for me it's interesting because again, 1-3 got gate 47 in my sun, so like all the mental energy is so strong. And I know pre-human design, it was a lot. I didn't know how to get out of my head. I did CrossFit for many years, and I was a coach, and because it was the only way that I could get into my body, because you can't overthink and
slam yourself into the body.
Right. Yeah. Like if I wanted to clean the weight, I had to just do it. And it taught me how to not overanalyze. But now my body's exhausted and I just can't do it anymore. So it really does. The only way I can describe it is I feel like a floating brain most of the time, where it's just all happening up here. And one thing that was interesting too, once I started in my experiment, I remember one day I was feeling really overwhelmed with stuff. So I just stopped and I listened, and it was like I could hear all 7 not self voices like yelling at me at the same time, just freaking out about everything. So I do breath work too. I do breath work every morning. I'm a Reiki master. I've got EFT tapping, like all kinds of stuff to get me in the body, because the mental stuff is really strong for me, plus fear motivation. So it's just a lot. But I'm feeling the calmest I have in a long time. And it's a weird thing, like you were talking about before, like allowing myself to rest and to just experiment with my energy and let that show up has been interesting. I'm also like, my only channel is the channel of curiosity, and I shut myself off from asking questions a long time ago because I thought it made people mad. It seemed like it made people mad. But I'm a projector with my only channel of curiosity. Like, I'm sorry, the only way I know how to navigate the world is through questions. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. How do you feel, Janelle?
I love that because I feel like people have this misconception, like if you have an open center, like you don't have it.
Yeah.
And it's like, look at a mental projector, it would say like, you don't have a body. You're just the mind, you know?
That's what I thought when I first learned about mental projectors. We didn't like, this was not of importance. It just wasn't important when it's the most important. Like it was, for me, it was very, just like you said, having the undefined centers, we don't have a consistent access to how they feel. So learning about that was helpful for me, because my whole life, when people talked about listening to their gut or their intuition, I was like, what is talking to you? Because I don't know what you're talking about. And I didn't trust anything my body ever said to me. But I'm really good at knowing when I'm sick or when something is wrong with my body. I've figured out right away, like really quickly. And I've had doctors even tell me, they're like, how did you even know something was wrong? And I was like, I just knew something was wrong. But I don't have trust in it still. That's what I'm working with. Another interesting thing that I've tried working with is most of my undefined centers have one gate. And so I will look at that gate and go, how do you feel this? Like, when do you feel this? And sometimes I'll feel it. I'm like, oh, I feel gate 5, or I feel this. And I'm like, that's the sacral, that's the spleen. Those are things are talking to me now. Like, that's what's happening now. Pay attention. And then I kind of amass this whole library of feelings of like, oh, this is what it feels like. I know when the freaking root is talking to me because
fucking root, man.
he's the worst.
That's I'd always tell people that same thing.
Oh my God, Travis, we're the same.
It's
Anytime I'm
annoying.
talking to her, she's like, what's going on with your root? And I'm like, to me, it feels like a physical energy pushing you from behind and like saying, go, like just go. It's the only center to me that I feel like is an actual separate thing from my body, just being like, so that's when I really have to pay attention to.
I always tell people, like, I know if I go on a date with a girl that has a defined root instantly.
Really? How?
Like,
How?
my body starts to get fidgety. I feel more nervous. Like I can physically feel the uncomfortableness where usually, like, you know, first dates are like uncomfortable always, you know, there's things happening. But when the root is there, I'm just like, damn it. Like I can't sit still. Like I can't, like I can feel like physically my body wanting to move. And I have the 30 or I have the 55. If they have the 39, or the 49, and we connect one of those to the solar plexus, like I sweat. Like I don't sweat much, but like when those get hooked up, like I sweat
it's like
so much more than normal. Like that, the root to me is like such a fascinating one because I think it is like the most visceral that we could feel.
It is.
If it's open in your chart. Yeah.
And it's like the most, to me, it's the most inconsistent of all my energies, and I still I'm like, I want to be able to tell when it's coming, and I still can't. Some of the other ones I can kind of tell what's happening, like the heart center, I get real excited and like jazzed up
with the ego.
I get really like into myself, like I'm like, my shit's awesome, I love all the stuff I'm doing, this is so neat. And that's it's a nice feeling for people who don't have it very often.
It is. You know what I've noticed though with defined heart people is like I can't like Travis, I'll go like spy on you on Instagram sometimes, but I can't follow you because if I follow a defined heart person for too much, then I get too weird, like I'm not doing enough. I get in comparison mode, but my only gate is 26, so maybe it's just annoying that it's so it's interesting, like you and Vanessa Henry and Sam, like I can't follow. I love all of
it's like a weird FOMO jealous thing. Yeah, it's like it's
not even I don't know if it's FOMO, but it's
jealousy.
Like maybe a little bit of jealousy.
Yeah.
But I'll also be like, well, if they're doing this, then maybe I can too. And I'm like, wait, why am I trying to copy people?
Which is a beautiful, but that's also a beautiful interpretation of the heart because they're giving you a little oomph of like, actually you can do this thing. And it doesn't have to look like this. Like it's because that's how I feel a lot of times with the heart is I'm jealous, but also like, thank you. Cause you just gave me a boost of confidence because y'all are so confident.
It's amazing.
Well, when you align I was so not confident my whole life, you know, I never had any confidence at all, but also I've noticed that having that ego, when you're not solid in it, people destroy you. People talk bad about you behind your back. People want to pick fights with you. People like when you're not solid and embodied in your ego energy, it's like a free for all for other people to come and just like take over. You know, it's like the alpha dog or the alpha wolf who's like got like a broken leg or like a small injury and people are like, ooh, there's going to be like an overthrow, you know, like he's getting kind of weak. Like, let's take him out so we can kind of become the alpha. That's what it's felt like.
Interesting. So how did you move into your defined ego? Like going from feeling insecure, how did you take those steps?
Yeah. So to me, anything that's colored in your chart, like you don't have to do anything to get it. You have to get out of the not self. You have to start to get out of your own way. So I haven't done anything to become an ego. It's already there. I can't not have it. What I've done is like, stop trying to be the generator, stop putting my self-worth on my really align as a projector. And then I'm starting to feel it come alive. And it's more of an experiencing like, ooh, this is interesting. Like I do feel confident now. Like, fuck, I am the best sometimes, you know, like, oh, this is like, I'm starting to feel it come alive just for me aligning as a projector, honestly waiting for invitations, getting recognition, talking about the things that I love. I never wanted to do a human design reading ever. I never wanted to be a spiritual person. I was the most bitter, like anti-spiritual, like people are stupid, like the world is, that was me like 4 years ago, you know? So me just following the truth of my design, I find myself in human design. You know, it still boggles my mind sometimes. Like, dude, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, how does this happening? But and then with the ego, I'm like, holy shit, like this, it feels so good. But I didn't do anything to get it. I just aligned to my type, which I think is the beautiful thing of human design is you don't have to do anything to get your design. You already have it. You just have to align to your type and your strategy and authority.
That's great. Yeah. The type part is, I think, is really helpful because people want more than that. A lot of times when they first start with design, they're like, oh, I'm a generator. That is boring. Give me more specific to me. And it's like, well, start there.
There's so much depth in the surface that people don't like. Yeah, like you were saying before, Travis, like you're still like looking into the type and the centers. And I do the same thing. It's like that one line keeps discovering stuff.
Yeah. I have people ask me questions like, what business advice would you give me? I'm a 1-3 sacral generator with gate blah blah blah, and then gate, and they'll give me like a channel and like 2 gates and be like, how does this work in business? Just like,
you're like, cool, not enough information. Also,
it's too much information. I'm like, what does your fucking sacral say, you idiot?
Right, that's all you need to know. Plus, let's just do some unlearning, like you said. Like all you need, like it's nervous system work.
It's fun to think about it, but if you look at a design holistically, there's no way in hell your mind will ever be able to come to any conclusion of why you made a decision. Impossible. 1,080 different ways that one gate can express itself, and you have 26 of them, and then you have the centers, and then you have the transits, and then you have, there's no way in hell, people, that you could ever know if this was a correct decision I just made with my spleen or not. I can't know that. We can think about it and have fun with it, and maybe, you know, but that's not the point. It's like just the fucking type was the most beautiful thing that I think that human design gives us, because that's what will change your life. Not knowing all
it really will. That recognition and invitation piece. I mean, the way I was so thirsty for recognition beforehand.
A great word.
Oh, yeah. So stepping back has been interesting. So that brings me to dating, though, because you were talking about dating before, and it made me think with dating, especially because you're the dude. So historically, you're supposed to like go out and seek things, right?
Be the man.
Yes. So I'm curious how you're feeling, because and also dating apps. Like, are you on dating apps, or do you have any thoughts on projectors with that? Because I just get curious about this.
I just deleted all my dating apps literally yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I liked Bumble the best because the woman has to initiate first.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
So I think for male projectors, that might be the best one.
Sets you up.
Where do you want me to start with this? Okay. I remember. Okay. I was so confused as a young man because I was taught that I needed to initiate. I needed to walk into the room and like be the gregarious man that's going to like control the room and attract these women. And like, so I had created the perfect man in my mind. Well, I didn't know till later that it was literally the exact opposite of my chart.
Okay. That makes sense.
Literally the exact opposite. So I could pull it off when I was younger if I was really drunk. And around my group of friends who were a lot of generators and manifesting generators, like I could amp the energy up and be inebriated enough to pull it off, you know, to pretend like this is the way I am. But this is the whole point of human design. It's like the reason we're meant to wait for invitation is because I could go initiate and I could get a girl and we could start dating, but I can't keep the facade up for too long.
Yeah.
It's eventually you'll understand like, oh no, I'm just a projector. You know, I just kind of like like totally bullshitted you. So
Yeah.
this for me was like, it never made sense after the fact because I could not keep up that energetic game. But it's so confusing as a man, especially if you're a projector, like this waiting for the invitation. You feel like, oh man, am I not manly enough? Am I not masculine enough? Like, why can't I have, my brother's a manifester. I watched him throughout his whole, our upbringing, like have so much impact on his friend group and so much impact with these women. And I just was so confused. Why don't I have that impact? Why do I feel like this is off? And even when it was working, when a projector walks up to someone and initiates, both people know something's
like,
not right here.
Oh yeah.
Like we could pretend and like have a great conversation, but you just know physically, energetically, like something's off. So I was just like, to me, dating was just so confusing early on.
Wow, that's fascinating. I never thought of it from like a male's perspective.
Ugh.
And we're
Well,
all
think about a
of similar
manifester woman.
ages. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
God, yeah.
I have a quick fun story because my mom's a manifester and my dad is a generator. And so they
cool.
met because my dad was the youngest of four and he was like 24 and still living at home. And my grandpa was like, I'm done. And so he worked with my mom somehow. He's like, we need you to come house sit. So my mom comes and house sit. So that's how they met. 2 weeks later, my dad's like, oh, I got a job. I'm moving. And she said, well, where does that leave us? He's like, I don't know. She said, do you want to get married? And he said, okay. And my mom's still angry about it. But now that I know their designs, I'm like, Mom, it literally could have happened any other way. There's no other way it could have happened.
Yeah, she initiated him into a new job, a new place, and into a new marriage.
Yes. Like,
I love that.
So much initiating from my mom. It's so funny. She also refused to promise to obey him in the wedding vows. Like, you're such a manifester. So they have that kind of dynamic. So it was interesting growing up with that, and then me being the the projector, trying to figure out life. But yeah, I was curious about your perspective with that because I've tried the dating apps too, but it's so weird. It's just weird. I'm like, I can't get to the person through the app.
Yeah, it's hard to feel them energetically. I mean, I met my husband through Tinder, so I can't really say anything, but I agree with you. It's hard to, like, now that we've been working with energy like we have for a while, it's like I can't, it's almost like you can't reach them. You're trying to reach them and you're like, I can't get to you. I have to meet you. Or for me, it helps a lot to see someone's face and to hear their voice in video. Yeah. When I talk about making content with Rebecca and I get super annoyed and pissed off, I know I just have to make a video because that's the only thing I can do. Trying to like make content and like make it look nice, it's horrifying. And I don't care about that. So the easiest thing for me to do is just be like, okay, I'm going to talk to you and then I'm done.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the biggest problem with projectors and dating apps is like a lot, like, especially 1-3, you spend so much energy and time and they go nowhere most of the time. I've had some great dates where it's like, I found human design on a Bumble date.
Cool.
Yeah. So I've had some great experiences where I bump into these people, but I'm more of like, oh, I think you're attractive. You think I'm attractive. Let's not talk for 2 weeks. Let's just go meet for coffee. And I will know instantly if I want to see you again or not, done. Like that's, I think the third line is like, we got to bump into each other to know what this is going to be.
You have a good amount of fourth lines too. I think you have like 5, maybe. I think it's interesting that you connect with people in the way that you do, or like I need this connection, or this is not worth it, essentially. Yeah. Like your heart and your fourth lines got together and said, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your experience on that, because dating's weird in general. But then as a projector, like the more aligned I get to my energy, the more I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to have to live life. And the universe is going to have to throw some dude in my way.
I honestly think that's what happens, with everybody. It doesn't matter what your type is, but when you're like, I know when I'm looking for someone, it's the worst. But when I'm really in my design and like loving in my life and it's going well, there's a bunch of people that show up.
Yeah. It's the same with money too. Like, I don't know if you've
Yeah.
experienced this. Like when I just chill, I just like throw something out there, like, hey, here's this offer that I have. And then I go hang out with my kids.
Yeah.
Then I just randomly get people signing up for things.
Yeah.
But when I'm actively trying to market myself, crickets. It just is weird. Okay.
Marketing is the
I totally
worst.
feel the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like marketing, but
I just
not
feel like
selling people. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to do it in a specific way as a projector, because obviously we have to talk about what we do.
Yeah.
But like I had this Manny Gen coach one time, and she's like, you have to show up every single day on your stories and talk about your offer all the time.
This time.
I'm like, and I burnt out so fast after like a week. And she's like, what's wrong with you, Rebecca? You're telling the universe that you're not worth it right now. You need to show up.
Oh, God.
It was a disaster.
Oh, God.
And she said,
this is my nightmares.
I know. And she claimed to be into human design. And I'm
this
like,
is why I can't sign up.
Projector?
This is why I can't sign up for any business things. I want to because I suck at business, but I know they're gonna tell me that shit. They're gonna give me structure where I don't want it, and they're gonna say if you're not showing up, you don't want it. You don't want it enough. That's like heart center, not self, like banners. Yeah. It's so insane. Yeah.
She was toxic as fuck.
Well, a lot of the coaches lead with that though. Like, you have to, you're not trying hard enough, or you're not wanting enough.
Yeah, but it's so boring and so homogenized, and it's just a way to prey on people's not self and get them to give you money. To me, my biggest issue with them is like they don't give a fuck what your results are most of the time. They'll just shame you into you're not showing up enough, you're not working hard. Like there's so many coaches are so good at manipulating any conversation into it's your fault. It's because of you.
The gaslighting.
They just gaslight the crap out of you, and it's like, wait a second, why don't you actually listen to what I've witnessed this. I don't work with many coaches, but I've witnessed this in my work, and it's like, wow, they are so skilled at gaslighting these people into thinking that they're not worthy and they're not working hard enough and they just need more. And I'm $1,000 a month now because like you need to invest in yourself and you get what you give back. It's all repetitive bullshit that comes out of these people's mouths most of the time.
It makes me sick.
I had a hard time charging until I realized that reading charts is really niche and not a lot of people know about it, and I was actually spending time and energy learning about these people. And so maybe I should charge for that, and that's kind of how I went about it. But it's very much like, I want to share this with you, and I'm here if you want support, but I'm not going to tell you I can't tell you how to do anything. I can tell you how I do stuff, like third line share stuff, but that's pretty much as far as I can go with my coaching. I don't call myself a coach. What do I call myself? A guidance counselor? That was
guidance
the term I came up with the other day. I was like, can I just be a cool camp counselor? Like, who's like, you do you, bro, but maybe you should try this.
Yeah.
But I think that's perfect with the Sphinx. But I will say, I'm working with a coach right now, but it's in this like group program. And the way that it has healed me in so many ways, because we had this group call and I got on, I just started talking, and it's like, for me to be able to show up in soundboard in this amazing, beautiful community of people who genuinely care. And I've been following this coach for a year and she's amazing. The only reason I was able to invest in this program with her, and just me showing up and talking, that's when I got the tingles and realized like, this is the soundboarding. This is the support I need. Like I literally just need to be in this environment. And that gives me what I need to move forward in this business. Me trying to do it by myself as a mental projector, as a 1-3, like all the inward stuff I have, like I just get stuck in my head and I get really weird. So
you're not weird. I had someone invite me into a container thing recently, and I said the only thing I said was, how much does this cost? And she never responded back. And I was like, I need to know this.
Must have been cheap.
It's like, I'm not trying to, I know we're, like you said, we're supposed to throw all the money in the world at things to make ourselves better, but I need to know, like, you need to be able to tell me how much your thing costs. please.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another
That's
thing
the
coaches
biggest red
do.
flag ever.
Yeah, they like won't tell you because they're like, let's talk about all the other things first.
You have to do a discovery call with me first, and then I'll
Yeah.
tell you how much I
Yes.
cost.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, just put it on your website so I can see it. Come on.
I think as a like maybe it's just a projector thing, but like it's seeing through people's bullshit's too easy, you know. Like for
Yeah.
me, it's like, oh my god, like you can see through shit so easy, and it's just like cringe worthy most of the stuff that's
So
out
easy.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it took me a while to trust myself with that though, because the whole reason I invested in this coach, because I was still kind of in my thirsty phase and I just wanted recognition and I wanted,
Yeah.
well, plus being a single mom, like I wanted success and I wanted it quick so I could take care of my kids.
Yeah.
And so she kind of manipulated that whole
Yeah.
situation. And I went off on a martyr mode because I felt so bad that I invested in that and wasted my time and money. But yeah,
Good learning experience.
I learned a lot.
Jeez. All right. I had one last question for you, and then if Rebecca has one, and then if you want to say something. See, I have to plan. I have to like plan it first, second, third. I don't know why.
I like
it. Well, thank you. If you could say something to you when you like first were learning about human design from your place now, what would you want to say to yourself?
When I first found human design?
Like when you first were getting into it and were learning about it, is there something you would want to tell that person?
No, I did it perfect.
That's such a good answer. When we talked about this before, I was like, I would say relax, bitch, because you're too intense. But
okay,
I guess you're right. We did do it. We all did it.
I'd say chill the fuck out too.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Because at first you're like,
yeah.
Because we're looking for something in it.
I don't know.
I looking for something.
Mine was like, it was very authentic. And like I said, I never wanted to do a reading. I never wanted to do this for other people at all. So my journey, like I felt, has been very aligned. And like, you know, I got the invitation and it was okay. And then I did it. And then, yeah. I don't know.
What would you say, Rebecca?
Well, honestly, the same thing. Chill the fuck out. Because I just like I immediately.
That's what I want to say to myself now.
Right, all the time.
It's kind of a daily mantra.
I guess that's true. Hey, young you, I would say the same thing
now. Yeah. I am way chiller than I used to be, so that's fun to look back on. But yeah, I think I just went down a whole one-line rabbit hole spiral at first, trying to figure everything out and figure out the right thing, right? And so I mean, but it was fun. But also, like you said, Travis, it's also perfect how it was. Like I wouldn't really change anything. I see how it was unfolding, and
we had to make our mistakes and do our perfectionism.
I had to be a 3-5 sacral generator for a minute.
You should do a whole episode on that. I would love to hear that.
3-5 sacral generator, the most common, basically. Well, one of the very most common.
Is it? Oh, I don't know.
The 3-5 is incredibly common, and then generators are common. But I guess if I was emotional, it'd be even more. And it was just because I put my birth time as AM rather than PM. You're born 4:37 AM. I was born 4:39 PM.
Oh, no way.
And when I first did my birth time, all the chart reading software was military time, and I just put 4. And I was the only chart that I screwed up. I run a ton of people's charts after that because I was like, what's your shit? What's yours? I need to know it. I need to know. I never messed up anybody else's. I did military time perfectly for everybody else's, except for mine.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like that's such a 3-6 way to get into human design.
Oh my God.
Right?
It's like
let's just bump into this thing.
Just like fall on the floor in the middle.
Down.
I'm here I am. Like it was insane. And when I realized I did it, like you guys, I can't even tell you how dumb I felt. Like it was the most, I don't know. I've never felt that third line in my whole gosh darn life, except for that moment. But like you said, it had to happen that way because then I had to go, I fucked this up and look at my mental projector chart and go, oh my God, I can't look at this. This is too bright. And then I threw it away and I unfollowed everybody I knew on Instagram, and I wouldn't. And then I would like sneak looks at people's stuff, and I'm like, oh no, you can't look at that. That's stupid. You don't like those things. And I'd like read my books in secret. It was really weird.
In secret from yourself.
Yeah, because I was like, this isn't logical. This doesn't make any sense. This isn't smart. This isn't what the society says is smart.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't it.
Yeah.
And then I realized that society is bullshit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, this has been amazing. I'm just going to say that. And is there anything else that you want to say to us?
Are you talking to Rebecca?
I'm talking to you. Oh yeah, she was too. I forgot. I skipped you. Yeah, I'm talking to you.
You went from 1 to 3. Man.
Well, we're going to go that way. Now we're just going to go like this.
Go ahead, Travis.
Wow. I don't know. I've loved this conversation.
Cool.
I think the vibe I'm really getting is like, wow, this has been fucking fun. And what I see out in the human design world is like not many people are having much fun anymore. And it's getting very, we got to be correct and we got to have rules. And like I said on a previous post, it's like the people turned it into a religion, which, you know, it makes sense why that would happen because we're humans. But I just like love what you guys are doing. And I think we need to have these just like fun, fuck around conversations and just like talk shit and say things because it's like, what's the point otherwise, you know? So if you're out there trying to get it right, oof, you know, there's a lot of threes on this podcast right now.
Screw it up on purpose. That's what I tell people. Go against your design, go against your authority, go against it just to see what it feels like. Yeah. You're not going to die. You're just going to see what it feels like.
You will gain information.
Yeah.
Well, and the whole thing, like I did that for 30 years.
Right.
And I know it doesn't work because I did a 30-year experiment on my not self. So that's why I'm like, okay, this is so obvious to me. But if you're not sure, by all means, like fuck it up, initiate, do the whatever you want to do, you know, but you'll find guaranteed that alignment starts with your type and your strategy. Like it really has worked for me. It's really brought so much amazing shit into my life. And this is why I love this system so much. And I think human design will never, ever get the credit it deserves of how divinely orchestrated and fucking deep and amazing and mystical and logical. And it is fascinating, this information. And most people will never get to they'll never get to a point to be able to see it for what it really is, which is like, what the fuck? We have been gifted an insane system here.
I forget that sometimes the vast majority of people will never even know what their type is and don't care to know. Because I'm so immersed in all the people that are super into this.
Yep.
I know.
Like, who else is even out
sometimes.
there?
I know. You're like, I'm like in the real world. And I'm like, I bet that kid has 2343. Like, but
that's the awareness piece, because it's really cool to like, because you're like, maybe they do, or maybe they don't. And they're just like going again. This is their conditioning. Yeah. It really kind of has you see people in a different way and with an awareness.
One last thing I'll also say, because I go through my phases of being bored with human design. He was told so much weird shit, you guys. Like so much mystical, like magical, like insane shit. So if you're ever bored, like what I do is I'll go dig into like a cosmology, audio, or I'll go, look at the mystical way, or there's very mystical, magical things of human design, just the way that it came into the world. And I think that's also very lost because he wanted to make it accessible to as many people as he could and not kind of freak them out. But if you want to get freaked out in human design, you can. So I recommend going there because it's just so cool.
I love that. It is fun listening to Raw. Though I got to ask you as a one-line, because there's sometimes where he drives me bananas because he's like, okay, we're going to talk about this thing, and then goes on 12 different tangents, and then kind of comes back to the thing. Like, I wanted to know about the thing.
Well, that's like I was talking about when I got refunded by Jovian. It was exactly that. He titled it one thing and he went into like a million circles and never even touched on that, and then came back around.
That annoys
me. Which Yeah, it's crazy. But also there's, I
It
don't know.
makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. Okay, I was just curious if I was the only one.
Oh
Like,
God, no.
Oh, he's a weirdo, man, but
Well, think
I
about,
love
like,
listening to his stuff.
he had an experience, like, we don't give him enough credit either for being a messenger, you know? Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
one thing he said that I was like, whoa, it tripped me out, was after he had his experience, he's like, I don't have to tell anybody this.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, he didn't. And he dedicated his life to, like, the criticism and the egos from people. Like, he got it. Could you imagine that life? Like, that must have been so extremely difficult,
Mhm.
rewarding at the same time, but like, whoa, I couldn't even. I'll bet so much information comes into the world and the person's like, I can't deal with this, you know, and they're gone, or they just don't
Oh
say.
yeah. Well, there's been stories that he's not the only one that got this information.
Yeah.
So
He's not?
No, he's not.
Yeah.
Other people had this experience,
I'm learning new things.
but he's the only one that went out and
that
really
had the
got the
balls to
traction
say
talking
something
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I
heard-
can't say if I get like weird shit from the universe, I don't like, and mine is just like regular stuff. So I can't imagine having a whole system in your brain. Before we came on, I was thinking about that. I don't like the term spirit guide. I don't know why it sounds real woo and not authentic. I've decided that spirit energy sounds a little bit better to me at this right now. So that's where I'm going with. But I have one, and I see her, and she told me her name. And I can't even believe I'm saying this crap out loud, because I don't say this shit out loud because it's weird. And I
love this stuff. This is so cool. Okay.
It feels so not real life that I don't. This is where I get Travis, is I'm like very.
Yeah.
Her name is Chloe with a K, which irritated me because I was like, that sounds like a Kardashian thing, and I hate that shit. But she was very insistent that was her name, and she looks like me, but she has white hair.
Ooh.
That's it. That's all I know. See, I feel stupid even talking about. But anyway, it's this kind of shit that you were talking about, Travis, that there's like fantastical and magical shit that when you feel like when I get too stuck in the logic thing, I feel like sometimes I need to go way the other way.
Yeah.
And allow this person to tell me stuff, and it's so weird. You never told me this.
I love Chloe already. She sounds like an awesome lady.
It's so weird that the fact that I thought of her like a name, and I wrote it down because it popped up in my head. I'm like, you have to write this down because you won't allow yourself to believe that this is a real thing unless you write it down in this moment, or else you'll just be like, that was stupid. Yeah. So that's kind of what I have to do. If I get like intuitive things, which we didn't talk about your spleen, but that to me is intuition is I guess that to me is like the trust piece that is hard for me. Is I don't like, how do you know that you can listen to this weird stuff that pops in? Like,
how do you know that you can't?
I know you guys have gotten that into my head now, and I will think that, but I can't make any promises.
It's been proven to me so many times that you're just like, I had to accept it at one point. Like, okay, I've had many psychic readings, like many healings with, like, I'm around a lot of spiritual people, and I've had enough experiences that I just can't explain logically.
I need to do
to a point where I'm like, all right. And if you like do human design, you have to know where it came from. The dude had a fucking 7-day experience with a voice that came to him in a thing, and it's like, come on, it's so.
I never tell people that. I never tell people that.
Yeah, no one ever wants. No one wants to talk about that
because they're like, "Oh, it's a cult. Then it's a cult. That's a cult. That's what cult is." And I'm like, "No, it's not a cult." Well, you just described a cult. So
yeah. Oh, and by the way, in 2027, the world's changing. You know?
Right.
I remember when I first found out about 2027, I was like, "Fuck, what did I get into?"
I can't wrap my head around that. I can't wrap my head around it.
But you can see it starting to happen.
Oh my God, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
Like, that's the most obvious thing ever.
Yeah. The whole pandemic was a real.
And he said that. So much stuff that he said has come true.
Yeah. And I think people now realize their time is much more important than they thought. They were giving it away so much because that's what they thought they were supposed to do to achieve. And now people are realizing, oh crap, like I'm not here to live for my work or my boss or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, Rebecca, you're 3. You're closing us out, baby.
No
That's why I
pressure.
saved you for last. Best for last.
The ego says save the best for first.
Oh, there you go. There you
Well,
go.
I went first. I don't like that. I do. I'm the best. Okay. No, seriously, Rebecca, you never really close us out, so you can do it because I like to.
Well, I just gotta say, like, I'm really, really grateful to you for sharing your time with us and for all the candid conversations. And I feel like we could talk for flipping ever.
We'll do it again.
We'll do it
Maybe
again
we'll
for
have
sure.
another
You
conversation.
guys come on mine too.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be amazing. We would
This is
absolutely,
fun.
we
yes.
both just freaked out.
Yes, we're both like, so now we're doing.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, so thank you so much, and for sharing all your energy and your wisdom, and for placating me on the dating stuff, because I'm like trying to navigate it myself. So I'm like, how are you doing it? Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk a lot more about that too. Being a 1-3, I think plays a huge role too.
Actually, yeah, that would be maybe I can have you on my personal podcast. We can talk about 1-3 life.
Podcast roulette. We're here. We're gonna be everywhere.
Train. Because yeah, the 1-3 aspect of life, that's something that I had to wrestle with a little bit too, where it's like, oh, you're the most like self-absorbed. Thank you. Why couldn't I think of that word? Because it annoyed me.
Is that what it is? Are you guys the most?
We are.
We're the only profile that has both lines in the lower triangle.
Oh
yeah. So it's like we're literally here to figure shit out for ourselves. Like we're like our heads down. We're like 1 line is learning stuff, right? And then 3 line we like bump into people. We're like, oh hey, what's going on? That's the only reason we meet people.
What are you doing here? I never really thought of the 1-3 like that. I love that.
So then it's weird being in a relationship because we're like doing our thing and the other person's like, hey,
I'm here too.
But then there's also like, for me specifically with all my openness, like I was picking up on a lot of stuff anyway. It was this is a whole other hour-long conversation. But thank you. I'll just wrap it back up. Thank
you so much for having me. You guys are awesome. This has been a lot of fun.
This has been so much fun.
Thanks you guys for listening, and if anybody has questions or comments, we'd love to hear them. This has been a one-of-a-kind experience, so thank you very much.
Bye,
everybody.
See ya.